Hello and welcome to the Right Click Save podcast. I'm your host Calcio, joined by Jimmy T, my fellow host as always. How are you today, Jimbo?
I'm good. Celebrating the Ethereum merge. It went through successfully. Which were you surprised about?
Not really, based on we talked about it quite a lot beforehand, and I think critically, it was kind of as you sort of predicted last week. We had a nice, lovely drop off in price, but again, the main thing is that it did successfully occur. It successfully merged.
Yeah, I was. So I don't do a lot of margin trading, but I successfully shorted the merge, which I was pretty happy with. I unfortunately closed it at about $1,400 because one of my friends who does a lot of technical analysis said that it was the right time to close it, and then almost like about an hour later, it dropped another $100. So I was a bit pissed off with him.
Jimmy, I'm afraid, mate, that is literally life.
Yeah, my life. Yeah, no, I'm happy with my small amount of profit.
In today's video, we're going to talk about couple of different topics: VC raising, how projects have gone about it successfully, unsuccessfully; Doodles managing to get that revaluation up towards 700 million, and really where we see the market going in the short term over the next couple of months.
Yeah, not so much of the positive on the short-term valuation of the NFT market, but good. It's kind of two weird sides of it. There we got Doodles, a blue chip NFT project that's just raised $54 million and have been valued at on its way to $1 billion in a bear market, and at the same time we've got most any other NFT projects sort of tanking hard.
The open-ended question here is, how good is it for NFTs as a premise that we have something of an outlier in Doodles? And again, I know other companies have raised and successfully had big valuations, but not many. Is it really positive that that's there and that Doodles can do that? Or is it a bit of a problem that there aren't more of them making such a splash?
Yeah, it's kind of one of these things that's a bit of a weird thing to think about, because on one hand, you've got the fact that it's great that they've raised a load of money, they're able to drive the brand forward and grow as a company. But the second hand, to raise 54 million in venture capital, you are going to have to do something to sort of pay that money back and increase revenue into your company. So at some point, they're going to have to really push on generating revenue. And is that necessarily good for the holders? Is this going to come from the holders? Are the holders the customers that are going to be paying this extra money that they've now got to raise? Or is that appealing to the masses? Something the Doodles have always said they wanted to do, which is have millions of customers, not thousands. Is that where they're going to raise the money? How is that actually going to happen? Is it going to benefit their 10K holders?
That was a big debate. I remember when we were at NFT NYC, it was one of the biggest topics that people were talking about when they first announced the seed funding, and they first chatted about bringing on some big names into the company. And it was really open-ended that as the original 10,000 holders, the dream that I think we all kind of operate in, that now we've realised isn't a reality because it can't be for a business to really grow, is that you've got this lovely 10,000 or 8,000, whatever it ends up being for the collection, group of people that exist as a solo investment. But the reality is, I think Doodles raised at most $4 million off their mint, which to do something of the scale they're trying to do is nowhere near enough. And so I think the harsh reality is that we've seen our investment, if you are a Doodles holder, go down. Everything's down. So it's nothing as an exception perhaps, but it's the only way that these companies can really grow to being global names.
Yeah. Well, it's all speculative value, isn't it? And I hear a lot of people comparing kind of Doodles, saying Doodles want to become like the next Disney, and therefore the Doodles characters are going to be worth more, which I think is true. I think as they grow, the brand grows, the original assets are always going to have the utmost value within their kind of ecosystem. But at the same time, Disney doesn't have 10,000 characters. People don't care about 10,000. People have no way they can know 10,000 characters. So how that value kind of trickles down to holders is something that is going to be hotly debated over the next sort of 12, 18 months. I think we're going to have a lot of innovation around how it can be seen. People talk about licensing their Doodles for certain things. Again, it's only ever going to be a small minority of holders that are actually going to be able to take advantage of that kind of thing. And it's definitely not going to be some sort of basic floor Doodle, which probably most of the collection is made up of.
And I guess for me, the biggest thing it highlights is just how fun it is to look back on a year ago, and it is now a year ago, that we were seeing projects like Lazy Lions and Crypto Dads and loads of others in between come out and have this explosion, often largely created by community hype and ultimately people wanting to make money. And actually, it's no slight on any project, really, that if they have continued to try all the way through, it's a really difficult job to make notable characters. It's not something that you can just do in 5 minutes. And even now, we're talking about Doodles raising all that money and still both sitting here, I think, questioning what they can ever do to become a household name. And there's no, again, slight on Doodles or Bored Ape. It just is an absolutely enormous undertaking.
Yeah, I mean, what did you? We were talking about some stuff NFT related earlier, and you said that we were looking at Bored Apes, and there are like over 600. What was it? 600 not derivative projects, but community-led endeavors,
ideas.
Yeah, 600. That's massive. That's crazy.
But it's amazing to think. You think about like Bored and Hungry, which was one of the biggest kind of news stories at the time, and I really hope I haven't checked because it's not obviously a local restaurant to me, but I hope they're still trading really well.
Mm-hmm.
But those sorts of ideas cost millions of dollars to put together. You know, he had to be able to buy his ape in the first place and then spend X amount of money to put together the restaurant, staffing, marketing, publicity, everything like that. And even then, how much time is it going to take him to be able to recoup? So to actually use your character as well is no mean feat.
What is more important, these community-led endeavors or the brand-led ones? Because in theory, you've got 600 community-led projects that are all proposing, in theory, mostly proposing some kind of benefit for holders. You've suddenly got 600 community brands or projects or services that you've got access to as a holder. And I think maybe that is where the really real value is going to come from owning one of these assets. Isn't actually from what the brand is giving you. It's from the endeavors put together by the highly gassed and motivated communities that have followed them.
So I think there's a couple of different answers off the bat straight to that. The first one is, what is value, right? So you have to decide, is this a financial value? Because it's a financial value. Well, when I got a duplicator back in May, we were in Florida for permissionless, I sold one of my duplicators immediately for I think $5,000, $6,000 to $8,000, something like that in that region. That's immediate recoupment of value. Sure, there's going to be a drop in the price of the floor on Doodles because people have claimed instant value back. In terms of long-term value, I think that we've obviously seen that these companies either need to go CCO or raise or whatever they do, or both. When they make that decision, they do leave holders vulnerable to the fact that, there is going to be a huge growth in their ecosystem.
Yeah.
Even though other side deeds are not NFTs where you have it as a PFP and things like that, they still put 200,000 land deeds out. It grows a community, makes something a less, scarce asset, and ultimately has dropped value. So those community projects then become huge because they are something that you can get value out of from a financial point of view, but also continue to bolster your investment. For me, for example, we're going to have them on the podcast to do a quick preview soon because they've just got their funding approved. Being a wizard holder for Doodles means that I'm one of 74 in a community-led project through the Doodle Bank called Wizzy Ministry. All that does long term is raise huge awareness for my NFT category within a Doodles collection. I haven't done a huge amount of work on that. I've chatted to them and we've had their graphics on the pod once or twice, but ultimately the answer is there that if you're holding certain NFTs and they're within that sphere, you potentially get a benefit long term.
Yeah, I think almost like one of the key benefits is being able to put these endeavors together. I love the way that Doodles have done it. The Doodles Bank is fantastic. I think it should be front and center almost a bit more of what they do because it's really engaging for the community. I know they have struggled with like DAO participation in general is really low, like really low percentage of what people vote. But then again, you've got like the 1,000 fans rule, don't you? The fact that to build a massive brand, you need like 1,000 real core fans and you can blow up from there. And these are the people, if you really look after your key community, the people that are doing the building, taking advantage of the community endeavors like the Doodles Bank, helping the building of your brand, that actually is just like multitudes more effective than raising VC money and trying to do some kind of standard marketing campaigns.
But it goes back to what is the brand trying to achieve, and the harsh reality is that community-led products are fantastic, but they're very limited by the fact that, for example, with Doodles, you have a capacity that you can make off of your own Doodle before it becomes an entity that they want to take control of. Their brand was always set out with the clear intention of having the Doodle Bank as a big part of what they do, but that they really, I think, were always quite intent on going down the VC route and pushing for becoming a big brand. And so I think one of the things that a lot of people have learned through their NFT experience is that the reality is you need to do not just more research, but just take a lot more time over things, because actually, the way that they'd set that out was quite evident from the start. Whereas a lot of companies that we don't really talk about anymore are relevant. Floor prices used to be 2, 3, 4 ETH, are now pennies. They didn't have any sort of real continuous plan on how we're going to take it from A to B. And as a result, they've been unsuccessful in actually pushing on. Now, they've made their money and people have lost their money. And so I think the harsh way we will all look back on this in 10 years' time, if you're still an NFT investor, or even if you're not, you'll still look back on it, I guess, is, oh, I fucked that up because I didn't think, or I fucked that up and I went and learned, so that the next time we do have this run, whenever it is, you're ready and understanding of the fact you've got to look for the really basic things like, does the team want to do something for longer than 5 minutes?
Yeah. And I think what we've learned about Doodles, who have done an amazing job with their project throughout, is that they're highly innovative and they will try new things and they won't just follow the meta. They have a vision that they're trying to execute. And what's going to be really interesting and exciting over the next few months and years is what they use this funding for, how they build the brand and how they drive value back to their holders.
And again, it does just come back to the obvious fact that everyone who bought one, and anyone who bought any NFT, chose to buy that NFT. They just went into weird, and again, I'm 100% including this weird mode where you went, fucking hell, I can make loads of money here, so I'm just going to throw tens of thousands of dollars at something. When if I put it in other content, in any other context, you go, nah, I'm not doing that. That's mental. And so I think a lot of people are out of that, no, that's mental stage now, and they've calmed down. And even a little bit we did see when they didn't tweet for a month, which for a company who are clearly busy, they just want to raise all the capital they did, that shouldn't be something which you get upset about if you've been willing to spend tens of thousands of dollars on an asset. And I think that highlighted for me just how just baffling it is that people have spent so much money and they are so worried about someone tweeting that they let that stress them out, even though they'd spent all their money on investment. It's
bear market blues, isn't it? You're kind of going onto Twitter, you want to hear something positive. It's like the whole market's awesome when it's all popping and speculative and everything's going up and everyone's really excited. All the communities GM every 5 seconds. Every community is absolutely popping their discords. It's a lot rosier out there, but when I guess it's all bad news, you doom scrolling through Twitter trying to find some positivity, and you notice that your main investment hasn't tweeted for a couple of months. I can understand the frustration there, but I think you're right. This is a big brand. They're building something bigger than, just trying to hype up on Twitter every day.
You said on our last weekly episode together that you fully expected a lovely little dip after the merge, and you were right, which is good for you. Well done. But how do you think that affects NFTs in the short to long term, and what do you think outside of the natural cycle will kind of push us forward into a happier, more green space?
Yeah, I think obviously it's tough. The what's going to end the bear market? I mean, if I had the crystal ball to know that, I'd be able to set myself up beautifully for the future. But there's lots of factors involved. Obviously, the macros play a big deal in this. The NFTs flew when people made a load of money off crypto and then were kind of a lot more free spending in their revenue in the assets that they held. And it's like, what's a couple of ETH when I've just made 100 grand off some shit meme coin? And I think that is one of the big injectors into the NFT space when everyone in crypto is making loads and loads of money off crypto. When crypto is crashing, they don't have the money. They don't have the risk. They're much more averse to the risk to just spend loads of money on JPEGs. So I think that is probably one of the main things we need, a sustained crypto pump. And then when it levels out, that's when NFTs are going to start getting going again.
So what you're basically saying is we need to go and make 500 to 600 different really bad shit coins, pump them all up, make
the
everyone a
LCS
load
pod
of dough.
coin,
yeah, and then hey guys, you can pick that up whenever you want. It'll be on SudoSwap soon.
I heard
I
a really good analogy. It was on overpriced JPEGs. I think it was Zeneca who said it, and I think he might have even been recycling it from somewhere else. He may have mentioned. I can't remember the details, but he compared the NFT market to 3D TVs. Or 3D movies, and the fact that 3D movies were actually really, really cool when they were filmed for 3D movies, when you had like James Cameron going out Avatar, filming it with 3D cameras the whole way, not getting an existing film and bolting 3D onto it so that it can make more money. And I think what's happened with the saturation of the NFT market, where everyone's bolting an NFT on to make more money, we are at risk of really putting off our audience, our customers, our key demographic of NFT buyers, putting them off by this shameless money grab that we've had in the hype market. So what we really need to see is it develop beyond that, oh crap, I can make a load of money for my brand just by adding NFT to it somewhere. And actually, the key thing that we always talk about, the mass onboarding events, the key actual utility, the fact that Starbucks have moved their loyalty system into an NFT based system, that's huge. You don't even need to know it's an NFT. And that's the main thing. That's the thing that's going to make the big difference. When NFTs are embedded within technology seamlessly, you can't see the tech. And the fact that you are trading NFTs without necessarily knowing it's an NFT and avoiding that bad NFT brand.
He's dropping that clunky NFT branding that people get so high up on, and what is a fungible token? Everything's non-fungible. I think that's a big part of it. We've talked about it, so many other people have as well. When we get to the Web 4, which is probably not that far away, it's when PayPal and stuff like that integrate seamlessly as Starbucks have.
I feel bad for making this Web 4 brand. But
then even that oddly enough is kind of just is an accomplice of
people
the NFT.
hate change, don't they? Like I remember, I'm going to show my age a little bit here. I remember when mobile phones were getting popular. So like I was a 90s child, so I grew up in the 90s, and that was the changeover from people having home phones to having mobiles and internet. And at first, everyone thought anyone who had a mobile phone was a dick. And he'd be like, look at this idiot walking around chatting on his mobile phone. Fast forward it a couple of years, later, everyone's sort of saying the same thing about the internet. Look at these nerds sat at home doing their catalog shopping online. It's the same thing as NFTs. People were always entrenched. You get the early adopters. These are people that make a lot of the money on any emerging industry, but then you get the people, a lot of doubt, and then as mainstream adoption leaks in and they actually have a utility and they make use of it, it becomes useful for them. That's the only reason that people get involved with it. Either it's useful or it can make them money.
I'm still happy, I think, that I got into NFTs and crypto when I did. Critically, NFTs really for exactly that reason. Financially lovely, but it's also, well, hopefully one day, but it's also nice to think that you did take those steps when others didn't, and that you did think, you know what, I'm going to give this a go. And
you're a pioneer, Calzeri.
Yeah, I like that. Pioneer. I think I need a new tattoo.
Put that on your LinkedIn profile, Web3 pioneer.
Web3 is a bit clunky as well, isn't it? It's kind of synonymous with NFT branding, which we've just said is shit.
That's why we're skipping it and going straight to Web 4.
Even worse. Brilliant.
Well, on that bombshell, thanks very much for listening or watching. If you'd like to like and subscribe, we really appreciate it, and we'll catch you on the next one.
See you later.